we're going to look for someone who is, at the very least, business casual. Men do need to wear a tie if it's a professional position. Sorry, guys. Ladies should show up in a skirt and jacket if it's a professional position. You need to be neatly put together. You need to be on time or early. Things happen. I understand that. If you are going to be late, call. I have had a situation where someone walked in 15 minutes late and didn't bother to apologize. Needless to say, they didn't get that job. As far as the interview itself goes, we generally favor a panel. I think probably most of you do panels as well. Don't let that intimidate you. We are there to get to know you, not to scare you. We want to learn about you. This is your opportunity. You've gotten past all the hurdles up to this point. You've actually gotten called and you are in the building sitting down with us face to face. Make us love you. Make us think, this is the person I've got to have. This is when you sell yourself the hardest. You be confident, but don't be cocky. There's a very fine line.
I sort of think of job interviews as kind of a two-way information exchange. It's not only does the panel want to know about me, but this is my chance to find out about the job too. So I really need to be prepared with some questions, important questions, not just like, well, what time do you start in the morning, or what's your benefit package like? Right. You got to think of the big picture, like what are the big problems that your organization faces? And if you were really prepared, then you're going to already know a lot of those answers to those questions. I mean, just like putting their job descriptions or whatever on the web, organizations put all of their stuff out there to see. And schools are particularly prolific when it comes to this. They'll always have a thing called a school improvement plan, which basically defines what are their key goals and how are they going to solve those problems and who's going to be involved. So if you show up for an interview with a principal and a team of teachers, they're going to expect, or they should, that you've looked at that already. You should know background stuff like, what's the mascot for your school? What are the colors? You don't want to show up wearing a Duke t-shirt if you go to UNC, or a tie probably, to be professional. It's like just some of those little things can make a big difference, and it's incumbent on you to do that research ahead of time. I think that can be impressive when somebody knows that you've sort of cared enough to look into them and are interested in knowing more. And that also gives you a way to say, okay, here's what I bring to the table. I know that these are your concerns. Here's where I fit really well. And if you can bring something, for the teaching piece of a school librarian, if you can bring a portfolio or you can bring some samples of things that show that, that's like the puzzle piece that fits in there with what that school environment needs, then, you've really, you've stood out as a candidate.
Yes, extremely well put. And that is sort of like exactly how I feel about this. When I do presentations on this, I have a slide that says, ask not what the library can do for you, show what you can do for the library. So often people talk about, this would be a great career move for me. No, I don't care if it's a career move for you. What can you do for me? And that's what I want to hear about. I'll start with the easy part of dressing for your interview, just because I have some pet peeves there. If y'all want to hear about them, maybe we'll talk about them over drinks later. But I feel like dressing for the interview should not be rocket science, but I'm shocked at how many people don't get it. It's on the interwebs. You can look for appropriate interview attire. And so my attitude on it is, know what the safe harbors are. Know what safe interview attire is. For guys, suit and tie. For women, a suit. If you don't, and neat hair and no dark nail polish and things like that. If you don't want to do that, if you want to wear a dress and a cardigan, if you want to wear pigtails, if you want to do all of that, that's your choice. But know what risk you're taking by doing that, because it does send a message, and people do notice it, and it's not just catty women. I like I said, I sit on a lot of these committees and hear a lot of the things that people say, and yeah, people do notice, like, I personally notice pigtails, but people notice things like that. So the safe harbors are wear a suit, but you can get away with other things. And then as far as just preparing for other things, yes, research. Know what the institution is all about. And again, it's about storytelling. People respond to storytellers. Have your stories ready, and have the stories ready that relate to that job ad. I mean, for me, when I look at a job ad that I'm interested in, I start thinking, even while I'm looking at the job ad, oh, well, yeah, they're looking for this, and this is what I've got. Have all of that ready to go when you get to the interview. And in the vein of keeping positive, one of my favorite interview questions asks the candidate to talk about something negative. It's the tell me about a situation where you didn't get what you want, or something like that. And I love that question because a good candidate can tell a story about a bad situation and still put the positive spin on it. And so it's fine to take a minute to think about that question. That is totally fine. I don't care if you have to take a breath and think about it. That's totally fine, but keep it positive. Oh, and one other thing about what you wear. Think about wearing a watch, even if you don't always wear a watch. It can be really off-putting if you're digging around for your cell phone during the interview to check on the time. And that may be how you check your time. And I know kids today, that's how they check their time. But it's off-putting. And I will probably be one of the younger people that you would interview with. And if it's off-putting to me, I'm guessing it's off-putting to other people if you're looking at your cell phone all the time. They don't know that you're looking for the time. They think you're looking for your text.
Good comments on dress. In your literature that you mail in, your application, your resume, and on the day of the interview, don't tell anybody how much you love books.
Or that you want to help people.
Jason, we're going to ask them what they want to read.
Love books. Well, about $1 for every time I read that. So that's just in general, both the day of. I don't know. Let me spin it a little bit differently from the academic point of view. Be ready for a long, I don't know how to state it, a long day. If you're interviewing with an academic library, it scared the daylights out of me when the first job I had at UNC. It was a day and a half. It was lunch with different people. It was dinner that night. It was an hour-long presentation. It is a long day. And you're going to answer the same question over and over and over and over again. So, and it's not a test. It's just that you talk. At least at UNC, you do talk to that many different groups and that many different people. So work on consistency. It's try to tell the same story all the time. You feel like, did I just say this and all that? But it is a long, intimidating day, and you'll be talking to lots of different people. Because everybody wants to see you. Everybody wants to question you. You have people come to your presentations, at least at UNC, that you may not ever see again in your work life there if you do get the job, but they get the email somehow. And that's the other thing that scared me was after I got to UNC and that first interview package came out about the next job with here's our 3 candidates, they email at UNC. They email your cover letter and your resume and everything that you sent in out to everybody in the library. I'm like, oh crap. Everybody I know in this library read on my letter, and I got so good. I hope there were no mistakes. I got so embarrassed. Trying to think of other things just about the interview day. So, but yeah, the whole preparation, and look at the organization's website, and at least seem interested in what they do. So.
And it sounds to me like you have to prepare in a different way depending on the kind of library job that you're going for, because. Yes. They're probably not going to interview a whole day and a half for a public library job.
You can have anywhere from a 30-minute to a 4-hour interview with us, depending on the level that you're applying for, just to warn you, in a public library setting.
And when you go for a school library job, you might be there for the morning, and most likely you're going to talk to the principal and a whole panel of teachers. And they have no clue what good 21st century school librarianship looks like usually. So a lot of the time it's like translating, and yet still building relationship, because that's what you want to, feel like you've achieved when you walk out the door. So it's sort of like building relationships with all the people that you interview with, but it would never be as grueling an experience as that.
They
So.
do have it down to a day now. So
Yeah.
a day and a half.
But I mean, it's good to know, because which makes me think that informational interviewing is really important too. So because each of us sort of has a different point of view, and it's good to know.
Yeah. And if I could add one more thing, one of the things that we are very big on in High Point, and I think a lot of other public libraries are, we're very behavioral-based questions. So take some time, go online. There are lists and lists and lists of interview questions out there. Practice. Get somebody to sit down across the table with you and ask those questions so that you're kind of prepared before you go in there. And just like Jason said, we're kind of sneaky. We'll ask you the same question 3 or 4 different ways, and we mean to trip you up, just so you know. So make sure you're sharing accurate information and you're sharing your best information. Because I'm going to ask you in different ways to describe a negative situation, and I'm going to try to hear how you're giving that information back to me. And as time goes on and we get into this 3 and 4 hour interview, you get tired. You're going to slip. So make sure what you share is completely accurate.
2 more things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Read your resume and cover letter before you go for the interview.
Yes.
Which is following up on the truthful part. Not that you would lie, but remember what you told them. Because everybody else is going to have read it, especially at UNC, because they email it out for everybody to read. And the other thing is eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
Please look at people in the eye. So don't talk to their chest or their, the table or something like that. Look people in the eye. That's my pet peeve. I can't stand that. So, and I'm bad about it. I try to look people in the eye. It's something I've worked on for the last 15 years.